On November 22, 1987, an unidentified person wearing a Max Headroom mask seized control of two Chicago television broadcasts in a single night. The first station fought back and regained its signal. The second could do nothing as the intruder remained on air for approximately 90 seconds. Federal investigators searched for the transmitter, the equipment, and the people behind the mask, but no arrest ever followed. Who possessed the technical knowledge to overpower two television stations, and why has one of broadcasting's strangest crimes remained unsolved for nearly 4 decades? Before this investigation ends, we will reconstruct both intrusions, examine the signal weakness the perpetrators may have exploited, and reveal the clue suggesting that WGN, not the program they finally interrupted, may have been their real target. In 1987, television was still a one-way experience. Audiences selected a channel, sat back, and trusted that whatever appeared on screen had traveled through a controlled network of studios, microwave links, transmitters, and antennas. There was no social media live stream. No home video could instantly reach millions of local viewers. Control of a broadcast signal belonged to the station. At least, that was the assumption. On the evening of Sunday, November 22nd, viewers across Chicago were watching WGN-TV's 9 o'clock news. During the sports segment, the picture suddenly disappeared. The screen went black. Then an unfamiliar figure appeared. The person wore a rubber mask resembling Max Headroom, the fictional computer-generated television personality who had become a symbol of 1980s media culture. Behind the mask was a moving sheet of corrugated metal designed to imitate the character's geometric digital background. The intruder swayed in front of the camera, while harsh, mostly unintelligible noise filled the audio channel. The first intrusion lasted only around 25 to 30 seconds. WGN engineers changed the frequency of the link feeding their transmitter and forced the pirate signal off the air. The news returned. For viewers, the incident appeared bizarre but brief. For station engineers, it was a warning. Somebody outside the building had just inserted unauthorized video into a live television broadcast. The station had regained control, but the perpetrators had learned something equally important. Their equipment worked. The WGN interruption revealed very little about motive. There was no clear demand, no political message, no ransom. The masked figure moved erratically, but most of the sound was reduced to electronic buzzing. When control returned, the sports presenter acknowledged that he was as confused as the viewers. Behind the scenes, engineers began determining whether the failure had originated inside the station or somewhere along the transmission chain. They did not yet know that the same intruders were preparing to strike again. The choice of Max Headroom was strangely appropriate. The fictional character came from a media satire built around television manipulation, corporate power, and a digital personality that appeared to exist inside the broadcast system. Now somebody wearing that face had invaded a real station. The visual joke was obvious, the technical achievement was not. To ordinary viewers, it looked like someone had taken over WGN itself. Investigators later believed the more likely explanation was that the intruders had targeted a weaker point between the studio and the broadcast transmitter. That distinction would become essential. They may not have entered the television station. They may only have needed to stand close enough to one of its receiving antennas. Approximately 2 hours after the WGN incident, viewers of Chicago public television station WTTW were watching an episode of Doctor Who. At roughly 11:10 that night, the program vanished. The same masked figure appeared. This time, the audio worked. The imposter spoke in an altered, high-pitched voice while moving in front of the corrugated background. The performance included references to Chicago broadcasting, advertising slogans, local media personalities, and WGN's identity. The final portion became crude and indecent before the transmission abruptly ended. The entire second intrusion lasted about 90 seconds. Unlike WGN, WTW could not immediately remove the illegal transmission. Staff in master control attempted corrective action, but the pirate signal continued. The station's own engineers later recalled the growing stress of watching an unauthorized and increasingly inappropriate broadcast while being unable to stop it. After approximately a minute and a half, the hijackers ended their transmission themselves. The original program returned. For the second time in one night, someone had demonstrated that a television station's output could be replaced from outside. This time, the perpetrators had transmitted their entire recording. The phrase television hack can create the wrong image. The intruders probably did not break into a computer network. They did not need a password. They most likely exploited the physical radio system carrying the station's program from one location to another. In the 1980s, a television studio could send its program to a distant high-power transmitter through a microwave studio-to-transmitter link. The transmitter site received that microwave feed and rebroadcast it across the city. If an intruder knew the correct frequency, positioned a directional transmitter within line of sight of the receiving antenna, and produced a stronger local signal, the station's equipment could accept the pirate feed instead of the legitimate one. The principle was similar to speaking closer and louder into a receiver than the intended source. This remains the leading technical explanation, not a fully proven reconstruction. Investigators never recovered the equipment, they never identified a transmission site, and no perpetrator confessed publicly with verifiable evidence. However, engineers concluded that the person responsible required meaningful knowledge of broadcast technology. The operation may have involved a microwave transmitter, a directional antenna, video equipment, and a location with a clear path toward the receiving facilities. One engineer later suggested the responsible group probably included someone familiar with broadcasting, satellite systems, or amateur radio, possibly more than one person working together. The second interruption also shows why proximity may have mattered more than enormous power. A pirate positioned close to the receiver might overwhelm it with equipment far less powerful than the station's main broadcast transmitter. The attackers did not need to dominate every television antenna in Chicago directly. They only needed to fool one crucial receiving point. Once that happened, the television station's own high-power transmitter distributed the pirate program for them. The Federal Communications Commission began investigating immediately. The intrusion was not regarded as harmless television comedy. Unauthorized broadcasting could interfere with licensed communications and raised wider concerns about signal security. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was also reported to have become involved, but the case faced a major problem. The crime left video evidence without identifying evidence. The mask concealed the principal performer's face. The altered voice frustrated recognition. The rotating background revealed little about location. The signal disappeared before investigators could trace it in real time. Because the attack lasted only minutes across both incidents, the transmission site could have been dismantled quickly. Investigators may have needed information from an insider, a witness, or someone who recognized the performance. None produced a conclusive suspect. No charges were filed. The Federal Communications Commission investigation eventually reached a dead end, and the identities of the people behind the broadcast remain officially unknown. Over the years, numerous theories appeared. Some suggested disgruntled television employees. Others suspected broadcasting students, amateur radio operators, or video enthusiasts. Internet users later proposed specific individuals, but those accusations were never supported by enough verified evidence. No confirmed equipment has been linked to a suspect. No reliable confession has been publicly authenticated. The involvement of at least 2 people appears likely because another person is heard in the recorded performance, but even that conclusion has limits. The video tells us the event was planned. It does not reveal the size of the team. The Max Headroom intrusion lasted less than 2 minutes at its longest point. It stole no customer records, it transferred no money, it did not shut down a city. Yet it remains one of the most memorable examples of broadcast piracy because it violated something viewers had treated as absolute. The screen was supposed to belong to the broadcaster. For 90 seconds, it belonged to someone else. The incident also anticipated a modern problem. Technology creates systems of trust. People assume that a verified channel, official account, or familiar signal is delivering genuine content. Attackers look for the weakest point in that chain. In 1987, the vulnerable point may have been a microwave receiver. Today, it could be a password, a compromised media server, a deepfake, or a stolen live stream key. The technology changes. The strategy remains familiar. Do not attack the audience one television at a time. Take control of the source they already trust. On November 22, 1987, an unknown group interrupted WGN-TV's evening news in Chicago. A person wearing a Max Headroom mask appeared for approximately 25 to 30 seconds before station engineers restored the legitimate feed. Roughly 2 hours later, the same figure interrupted WTTW during a broadcast of Doctor Who. The second intrusion lasted approximately 90 seconds and ended only when the pirates stopped transmitting. What remains unknown is almost everything that would explain the crime. Who performed behind the mask? Who operated the transmitter? Were they broadcasting professionals, gifted amateurs, or insiders with access to technical information? The crime produced one of the most recognizable unidentified faces in television history: a rubber mask, dark glasses, a distorted voice, a wall of moving metal. The intruders created an image impossible to forget and almost impossible to investigate. The mask concealed the person, the transmission concealed the location, the absurd performance concealed the motive. For a few seconds, they controlled television across part of Chicago. Then they switched off their equipment and disappeared. The recordings survived. The perpetrators did not leave their names behind. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe to Mysterious Crime. Like this video, share it with someone who loves documentaries, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation. Every mystery has a story.